I got asked literally like 10 seconds. I was like, yeah. It's for me a once in a lifetime opportunity. I think some things are bigger than just tennis. I think some things are a once in a lifetime memory that you're going to have for the rest of your life. You know, to play at Wimbledon with Andy Murray, it's, you know, those things don't come by. And I think, you know, at the end of my life, at the end of my career, when I'm like 70 years old, I know I'm going to have that memory of playing, you know, Wimbledon with Andy Murray on our home slam. For me, it was, an honor to be asked.
Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim and Chris. On today's Wimbledon Day 3 catch-up.
Raducanu dazzles the crowd on court 1.
Sinner survives in testing win over Berrettini.
And Andy Murray will play mixed doubles with Murracanu in his final Wimbledon.
Chris, today is the 3rd of July and we are here to catch up on day 3 from Wimbledon at Tennis Weekly HQ. It's been another action-packed day with Jannik Sinner surviving the might and serve of Matteo Berrettini, Naomi Osaka being ousted by Emma Navarro, and another Emma Raducanu, putting on a show on number 1 court. And that wasn't all the Emma news today, because Andy Murray announced, really from out of nowhere, that he will be partnering with Emma Raducanu in the mixed doubles. The dream run also continues for Britain's Sonay Kartal, who became the first British qualifier into the 3rd round since 1997. But Chris, firstly, that mixed doubles news, I'm not going to lie, I did not see that coming. Did you see that coming?
I didn't see that coming because Emma gets asked a lot about Andy Murray, especially now. And she said, well, I'm not actually that close with him. He's always been someone that's inspired me. It didn't feel like they had each other's numbers.
Shock.
I'm a bit in shock too. I think she doesn't play doubles.
I think she's still in shock.
She is. I don't know what she's agreed to because she's like, my doubles record is not great. I think she last played probably at the back of the Brits.
I don't think Andy Murray looked at the Raducanu doubles record.
The slam count?
Yeah, because she literally, I think, has played one doubles match on the tour. It was at the City Open in Washington, D.C. It was with Clara Tauson. They lost in straight sets. We didn't really think much of it.
Wasn't she having a phase there where she also entered into a tournament with Rebecca and then they pulled out from that one?
Oh, yes, there was
something strange in that US hardcourt swing where maybe someone was thinking...
It's a vibe. It's interesting. We're going to be talking about it in a bit. We're going to be talking about lots of things that have happened across the women and men's singles draws today. And we are going to start with the women. And although we will get on to talking about Raducanu and Murray and mixed doubles, Chris, let's first talk about the Raducanu performance today against Elise Mertens, 6-1, 6-2. I mean, this was pure destruction. I know her first match, she spoke about winning ugly. This was far from it.
I mean, based on the stats, she played very, very well. I mean, her unforced error to winner ratio, very positive. She had a positive differential of 8, which is great. She had 8 more winners and unforced errors, and everything was working, it seems.
It all clicked.
It did. I feel like the only thing I want to find out, because you were there watching all of that, Mertens obviously did have the hip injury in Eastbourne.
Yeah.
Was Mertens at full strength?
I didn't feel like she was playing not at 100%. I think that for Elise Mertens, it's a very nice opponent for someone like Emma Raducanu. She has a very consistent ball. I don't think she's particularly powerful on court, can overpower an opponent. She gives you a ball that is there to be hit, and Raducanu she just hit it and hit it and hit it. There were so many winners being sprayed about. There was also touch and variety. I think that was, to me, the most pleasing thing was that, there were lobs, drop shots. She really had the full arsenal on display.
It feels like that match in the first or the 3rd round or something like that, the US Open in that run against Sara Sorribes Tormo, where she just went for it.
And we were all sort of expecting a battle. And Elise Mertens, she's a very game competitor. She's had good results.
She makes it
previously
hard
in Grand Slams. Yeah, she's never. She's not a pushover. So for that result to happen was fantastic, and it was interesting because Emma Raducanu in press spoke about number 1 court and how much she enjoys playing on number 1 court, and we're going to hear from her now.
when I think of court one, I just think of that amazing win against Sorana. I think that was, my first kind of coming out into the tennis society, if you would like to call it. But I just have such amazing memories from that court. And I think that match in particular, it was the first time playing on a court that size. The crowd, the environment, the feeling of adjusting at the start to just playing on a court that big. So I only have good memories from that court.
I love that she brought up her win against Sorana Castella, because I think, Chris, a lot of people associate Emma Raducanu and number one court with Ajla Tomljanovic, the Ajla Tomljanovic match, where she disappeared off the court and we never saw her again. There's a kind of a balance going on there, and an impress. She was like, oh, yeah, that happened on number one as well. But I'd rather focus on the positives in that Castella match, which she kind of talks about being the one that kind of introduced her to the British public.
It's quite fun because that's kind of ignoring the fact she took out Andreescu and bageled her, I think, in the second round. So clearly that court has great memories for her. Ultimately, I think there's something about court one that does take the pressure off slightly. Obviously, she felt the pressure that day. Maybe that was because of all the attention that happened after she announced herself on the international stage, as well as to the British public. But it's got a nice feel. I've always thought it's got a nice feel. Things can happen there a little bit under the radar. It's not centre court. You haven't got everyone watching it, all eyes, all the famous people, everyone under the sun. And it just makes you think that maybe she likes a bit of quiet progress on an outside
she's
court.
trying to she's just trying to appreciate it whilst it lasts, because I feel like we're slowly getting to the point. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's like Jack Draper. I feel like we're getting to a point where centre court is the norm. Number one court becomes like the token gesture.
You have to do one every 7.
Yeah, exactly. We're sort of getting there. I mean, I was speaking to some fans and they were actually surprised this match wasn't on centre, but maybe that's because Raducanu likes kind of court one so much.
I think she requested it.
I don't know.
I'm sure she doesn't have that much power when it comes to scheduling.
Not, yeah.
But I was going to ask you, Joel, which one do you prefer? What's your favourite court at Wimbledon?
Do you know what? I'm still going to say court 18.
That's a good one.
Of the outside courts, I do like court 18, but
show courts.
It's centre court.
Of course you do. He's
it's
a
just
Queen's
incomparable.
man.
Centre court is just incomparable to personally for me. That yes, number one court is nice. It's got an intimate feel about it, and today you actually really felt that, because there was such kind of whooping and hollering from the British fans, and I love that kind of connection, that immediate connection that Raducanu has with them. But to me, there's nothing more unique and special about the centre court atmosphere.
Interesting. So I think I can probably agree with you. It's probably my favourite court here. But in terms of viewing, I do like being on outside courts. I'm an outside court kind of person. I like roaming the grounds, stumbling upon matches. I like the intimate setting of small rows, standing on people's feet as you try and shuffle down the aisle to get yourself to a seat in the corner. But no, I think it is interesting, because when you look at like the form that she's had previously, I always thought she was a big match player. So kind of shying away from centre court is a bit of a surprise to me.
And she's got Maria Sakkari next. And a few people told me that, well, maybe you remember, during her US Open run, she defeated
semi-finals.
Yeah, she defeated Maria Sakkari. I think it might have even been the highest ranked opponent that she.
I think
she
the
faced.
highest ranked opponent she faced might have been Bencic, actually.
Oh, okay.
But one of the two highest ones.
One of the highest ones. Sakkari into the third round. I mean, that's almost a surprise, I guess, in itself. Of Grand Slams of
doubled
late.
Her wins in Grand Slams in the last year.
I know. It's just amazing. Sometimes I wonder how she seeded so high. But I mean, immediate thoughts on that. Is that a good matchup for Raducanu?
I think it is, because Sakkari's not full of variety. And I think I've seen her play against players who can really mix it up. I've seen her play against Kasakinas. I've seen people able to take her off her rhythm. And I think, to be honest, Emma Raducanu at home is probably one of those things where someone who isn't the most mentally resilient like Sakkari, it won't be too hard for her to get frustrated with the crowd. True. Clapping double faults, potentially getting in her head. So I think probably it's an ideal matchup if you're going to play a seed.
Court one or centre?
It will be centre.
It's got to be. It's got to be. And I mean, as I say, we heard from Raducanu at the start of the episode talking about how the Murracanu partnership is happening. Again, why do you think this has happened? Why do you think Andy Murray reached out to the Emma Raducanu camp about potentially playing mixed doubles?
Well, I think he's definitely not fit for singles. Mixed doubles starts later. And I don't think he wants to say goodbye to the tournament tomorrow, potentially, because he every day, especially he has stitches in his back that are not fully healed. So every day that you get gives you a better chance of putting on a better display. And to be honest, even if they don't step onto the court, because I'm not 100% convinced that they will, dependent on how Murray's doubles goes tomorrow, it just means in his head he's not going to play his last match at Wimbledon. I think that will be really important for him having a good time on court with his brother Jamie.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a bonus, and I think that it's great, I think, for the British fans to be able to see both him play with his brother, but also play with the future, well, one of the futures of British tennis. And it does get me wondering, actually, maybe I should have asked it in press, but, Murray intends to play the Olympics as well. There is mixed doubles at the Olympics.
Well, I mean,
Is that a
Katie
possibility?
Boulter would be the only player he could play with.
Oh, is it? Okay. Sorry, I've broken the system.
Yes,
okay.
Emma did actually decline the wild card for Grand Slam winners.
Yes, of course. Sorry, I'm going...
That was quite doesn't matter. But ultimately, I think it's interesting. I don't know if it will definitely happen, but I do think it was very much inspired by the Serena run and how much he enjoyed that. Because at the time, he was actually the injured player and Serena was carrying him. And I think Raducanu is that sort of player who, when I saw at the Battle of the Brits, I mean, she loved taking on the men's serve, and I think she'll relish the challenge.
Very true. And I mean, moving on elsewhere, there was routine wins there was a routine win for Coco Gauff, which I watched. But you watched Naomi Osaka. That was her first time on centre court against Emma Navarro at Wimbledon. First
time on centre court this championship's the last time.
Sorry.
Do you want to know this? The last time, who did she play, Joel? And what year?
Oh, I'm not sure. Who?
2019.
Wow.
Yulia Putintseva, and she lost in straight sets.
Oh, so centre court not a good...
It's not a happy hunting ground for Osaka.
It's not a happy hunting ground for Osaka because Navarro came through, 6-4, 6-1. What was the story of this match?
Well, we all know that Naomi of old, even when she was picking up the Australian Open and the US Open in the same year or in kind of consecutive years, she did have those tournaments and slams where she just didn't really turn up. And this was one of them, unfortunately. She never really got herself fired up. And it reminded me of a match I saw of hers at the French Open where she went down very comfortably to Siniakova without really putting up a fight. And I mean, when she has a serve that's as good as her serve is, and it's grass, you have to think, what is going wrong? And maybe it's a case that her heart wasn't on centre court today, and maybe there were other things, other priorities at work. I do think that maybe the focus is all on the Olympics, so maybe she didn't necessarily give the grass court season the time it needed. But credit where credit's due. Emma Navarro was playing flawless tennis, as in very measured. She had a game plan. She executed it. It was very, very clean. And this is my first time seeing Emma Navarro live, and I've been a little bit critical of the fact that she plays so many sort of the lower ranked tournaments that have contributed to her ranking.
She's better than that.
She's really much better than that. And I think that I don't want to see her on a 1-2-5 draw or even a 250 draw, particularly anytime soon, because she can play tennis.
I mean, 5 unforced errors, 16 winners.
I mean, that's tidy.
0 break points faced. Yeah, it was very, very impressive from her. And I like this quote, actually. She spoke about the fact that she writes a lot of notes to herself on her mobile phone to kind of prep her. And she said that in her notes today, I told myself to make the court my home and never be afraid to stay out there for as long as it takes. So it's quite an interesting insight into that little kind of preparation and setup.
Yeah, and it makes me think that the other thing that she said was this idea that you kind of don't know how it's going to go. And I kind of like the fact that that's something that she really embraced, because I think all of us go into this match, we did not know how it was going to go. And I think clearly she had it open in her mind that she could do it. And I think that's something that's really nice, is when you see a player who could easily get overawed by the occasion of playing such a great champion on centre court, and she brought her A game.
Very true, very true. And there was one other ladies' match on the show courts. On court 1, they actually added a 4th match. Paulini defeated Greek Midden 7-6, 6-2. Oh my word, they put a fourth match on. Grass has frozen over.
Grass has frozen
over, everyone. I needed to get that in the podcast because I don't feel like it happens that often, so we should be
It's frozen over.
celebrating the moment.
The mud is frozen over at the back of court 1.
Well, probably.
Yeah.
But I thought it was quite funny because there was this sort of serious announcement coming on, and then there was a little bit of excitement. It's like, oh my word, there's going to be another match put on. And then it was sort of a little bit deflating, I'm not going to lie, when we heard Paulini and Midden, but great for the ticket resale. Before we go to a break, very quickly, elsewhere, Sonay Kartal, she's through to round 3. First British ladies qualifier to reach the third round since 1997, when it was Karen Cross. She actually faces Coco Gauff next.
Oh wow!
This is the Cinderella. This is a Cinderella British run, isn't it?
It is. It's unbelievable, and I think it does show that when it comes to wildcards and qualifiers, that ultimately players who didn't receive necessarily the wildcard to the main draw, they're still prepared to put the work in on the court and come out with it. And I think the thing that was so impressive to me about this result is that she was up that first set, and it looked like she might be able to close the second. She didn't get it, but she didn't go away. And I think that's something that normally you see players, for example...
Normally see Brits just fall at that moment. You just oh, well, that's it.
Yeah, or obviously Paul Jubb had a very unfortunate loss. It's happened a couple of times at Wimbledon now, and I think it's so great that she was able to get this win. And, Coco Gauff, nothing to lose. I think Coco, you were watching that match. Just a quick word on Coco. It was good.
It was good. I will say, though, her first serve, there is room for improvement there. It was still below 50%. But having said that, when you can go out there, not play your cleanest tennis and win so comfortably, it's certainly going to put you on the right path. I mean, just a couple of other results I want to bring up. Bianca Andreescu, she is now 8-3 in 2024. She beat Noskova today. She is looking very, very tasty.
She is, and I think this is testament to the fact that she put the work in before she came back to the tour. I think we've seen her come back to the tour and not necessarily be at match fitness. At Paris, she hit the ground running, took a set of Paulini when she went out, took out Kalinskaya, had that great match with Osaka on that run to the finals. So I think she's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting clash when she plays Paulini again.
Well, there you go. I mean, Svitolina as well defeated Goatnet.
That was an epic.
Yeah, that was an epic. Danielle Collins and Barbora Krejcikova also through to round 2. Those matches were carried over. I didn't know this. Danielle Collins now coached by Ryan Harrison.
I didn't know that either.
No idea. Just
a soft launch.
You just find out these things as you go when you're at tournaments. And Chris, before we go to a break, Sloane Stephens, Diana Schneider, 6-1, 6-1.
Not great, but I did get my moment with Sloane impressed, so
okay,
I'm happy.
It's
I'm
all
happy.
good.
She's happy. She doesn't sweat the small stuff.
Right, okay. On that note, let's move on. We're going to be taking a quick break now. Do join us in the second half, where we will be taking a look at all the men's action from day 3, including Jannik Sinner surviving under the lights against his fellow compatriot Matteo Berrettini. So do not go anywhere.
Yeah, I do check the serve speed sometimes in the match because I try to make sure I go for it, because sometimes unconsciously when you're tight, maybe you try to just get the serve in. So there are times where I'll check, and if I miss, even if I miss and the serve is like 119 or 118 and up, I'm like, okay, that's good. I hate to miss when it's like slower. And I want to get to 130. I think the fastest I've gotten is 128. Do I have a 130 in me? I don't know. Maybe if I was like a little bit taller, I definitely can get 130 now if it goes in. I don't know.
That was Coco Gauff talking about her serve speed. Chris, she's got the biggest serve of the tournament so far at Wimbledon in the ladies singles. Do you think we will see her hit the heady heights of 130 over the next fortnight?
Well, based on what you've told me, she should focus on getting more of them in than hitting it hard.
That is very true.
So
it's not about how hard you hit it.
It's where you put it.
Yeah.
Exactly that. But, I mean, either way, people love to see a big serve at Wimbledon. There's always a bit of a gasps in the crowd when you used to have Andy Roddick hit down a 145. Yeah. So I think that it's a crowd pleaser. So if she's going to go after it, go for it, Coco.
Well, let's see. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the serve clock whenever I watch Gauff matches now, because she does.
Well, she's watching it as well, clearly,
hit big. She does hit big, and I love it when it's under the roof. The sound is just like amplified, and it sounds great. But I mean, another big server. Moving on to the men's action, another big server, Matteo Berrettini. Now he was defeated today in probably the standout match of the men's second round in terms of names, in terms of personalities, because it was the world number one top seed Jannik Sinner against Matteo Berrettini. Sinner came through in 4 sets. It was very, very close. 3 tiebreaks, 7-6, 7-6, 2-6, 7-6. You were on this court.
Yes.
Just give us your thoughts. What happened with this match? Where did Sinner win it?
Well, I think ultimately Sinner didn't win it in terms of the match that was played.
No?
I think.
Why not?
Well, I think that Berrettini kind of lost it in those key moments, if I'm honest. I think, unfortunately, I couldn't say that this was one of those Jannik Sinner performances that reminds me of how he's been playing recently. It's much more similar to what we saw, towards the middle of last year, as opposed to the new Jannik Sinner of this year and the end of last year, because it wasn't that clean, I've got to be honest. And he did give Berrettini chances. In terms of the first set, it was very close. Berrettini did make unforced errors at the key moments of that one. He did save a set point. I think that was at 5-4. He then went up 4-2 in the second. He got pegged back again. Then he did finally get the double break, because I didn't think one break would be enough to win the third. And then he was up again at the start of the fourth. So I do think that this was one that Berrettini, if he had a bit more match practice, he could have actually won it.
Are we being harsh here on Jannik Sinner? Because Matteo Berrettini, he's a force to be reckoned with. He's had great pedigree at Wimbledon before. I mean, I'm looking at the stats. He was
48 unforced errors, though.
72% first serves in.
But the big problem...
tough. That's tough to deal with.
Well, I have a big problem with that, because he didn't win enough behind it. He won 71% of serves behind it. He hit 28 aces, but he didn't win a single tiebreak. And you have to think, if you're a grass court specialist with a big serve like Berrettini, you should be winning at least one of 3.
He needs to go speak to Novak Djokovic.
He does, indeed, but that's where I guess you have
Or maybe Hubert Hurkacz.
Well, I mean, he doesn't always win them either. So
very true, yeah.
I do think that he is a bit exposed sometimes on his movement, and the backhand, obviously, he had to run around it an awful lot. I don't think I'm being too harsh on Sinner. I think it was finding a way to win is what you're looking for, and a champion's mentality is that you do come through these matches, and when you're thinking about, is the curfew going to come into play, he still stayed focused, and almost it helped him to focus and get it done. He did not want to come back tomorrow.
Well, let's hear from Sinner, the winner, now.
Yeah, these moments can go a little bit both ways. No, also, I think out of 3 tiebreaks, twice he was up a mini break. This which I got back straight away. And this small momentum can change quite fast, and I served quite well in the tiebreaker. I guessed a little bit right on the returns, and these small details. Then against Matteo, such an incredible server, and player on grass makes only the small details can make the difference. And happy to see him back playing this level again, and hope to see him around as much as we can.
And Chris, one final question about this match. Both these competitors are fan favourites. Who was swaying where to which competitor on centre court?
I think 50-50 in terms of the men in the audience.
Okay.
I think very much in favour of Berrettini with the women. There were lots of whoops and hollering. Yeah. I think that probably tipped it over the Berrettini side collectively.
Yeah. And from press?
From press, the Italians were supporting Sinner. I think they want Sinner to win it all.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
They were clapping as well. I was like, is this allowed? Can I cheer on Raducanu? No, I won't. But we know what I think about that.
A good win for Jannik Sinner. He's having some tricky tests earlier on. So good to see him come through. And great also to see Matteo Berrettini back and fit seemingly, and giving top players tough tests. Other players on the show courts, we had Daniil Medvedev and Carlos Alcaraz. Now, they both won. They both had obstacles of sorts. Alcaraz got it done in straight sets. He made a bit of a meal of that first set.
Well, it was very stressful, John. At one point, we were messaging each other from around the grounds, and it looked like Alcaraz might lose the first set, and it looked like Medvedev might be losing the second.
Tennis. It was like tennis reporting first world problem.
It was like upset alert.
Do we go watch Medvedev? Do we go watch Alcaraz? Oh, I don't know. Where do we go?
And then they were both fine.
And then we were both fine, exactly. But yeah, Medvedev also had a tougher obstacle to overcome. He did get it done in 4 sets. Now, quite interestingly, actually, Medvedev was asked in press about the Olympics. And, Russians competing at the Olympics. There are a few who have already said they're not going to be competing because they cannot compete under their nationality. However, Daniil Medvedev has said if he is 100% healthy, he wants to attend Paris, happy to go as a neutral athlete. But yeah, quite interesting in terms of the kind of split, I think, of Russian players in terms of how they see, I think, the Olympics, given, as I say, the context surrounding it.
Yeah, I think it is quite interesting because I know that some players aren't willing to go if they can't represent their country. I think you were telling me today that it's Andrei Rublev.
Kalinskaya as well.
And Kasatkina. And I think when it comes to the Olympics, it depends on which side you're on in terms of, is it countries battling it out for the medals table or is it individual athletes? And I think this becomes a very strange one that, you're not able to represent your country when playing as an individual or when you would be playing for your country. So I understand why you wouldn't want to do that. But ultimately, if Medvedev does want to win a gold medal, I think what we've seen from the sort of the propaganda machine in Russia is that they are still claimed as Russian victories. So I don't think it necessarily does make a stand by not going. I think, to be honest, it might just be interpreted in the wrong way.
I mean, Carlos Alcaraz, as I say, coming through. Perhaps the most interesting thing about that is the fact that he will play Frances Tiafoe next. And they had a bit of a ding-dong. US Open semi-finals 2022. Alcaraz coming through in 5 sets, went on to the final, went on to win the US Open title. Frances Tiafoe has not been in great form of late, but that is going to be a real... That's like 2 born entertainers stepping onto one of the grandest stages of them all in tennis.
Well, Carlos Alcaraz and Frances Tiafoe, that will be a great contest. Very much looking forward to that. And I think that if Tiafoe can bring it, then it will be very, very exciting because he dispatched Borna Coric today in a result that
not many people, I think, were expecting.
No, and maybe straight sets. He's seeded 29 here. He had a close first set and then came through very, very comfortably. He's serving well. He does have that knee support on that Djokovic mentioned. So clearly things are going pretty well from that side of things.
Is he going to have to change it to white? That's one.
I think if Djokovic changes it, you have to, right?
Yeah.
If the GOAT changes it, then that's got to give a signal out to everybody that we won't take any of your blue strapping anymore.
Yeah, and he is going to enjoy, I think, being on a show court. It might not necessarily be centre, might be number 1, but you would think he would be on one of the...
I hope it would be centre. I think that would actually elevate the experience.
I know, and I think Tiafoe, he is a big game player. He is inspired by those crowds. He just hasn't really been playing to those crowds of late because he's just been going out so early in competition.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it will be great to see how he does. There were also wins for Tommy Paul, who had some great form coming into this. You saw a lot of him at Queen's. And there were some upsets as well. I mean, Felix, someone who is in a similar boat to Frances Tiafoe.
Match points up.
Again, this happens too often to him, doesn't it? It's
really tough.
Really, really tough.
Really, really tough. And Casper Ruud? Grasper Ruud. Grasper Ruud is no more.
I never got to ask my question, which was going to be, he said in an online video about joking about he's just going to try and win a couple of rounds at Wimbledon. He didn't. He won 1.
I mean, Fabio Fognini, like he's a veteran now.
I didn't know he was still an active player in many ways. Yeah.
How is he getting into these draws?
There must be a provisional ranking situation because I was quite surprised by this myself. But he has dyed his hair very, very blonde. So maybe Casper thought he was playing a Nordic compatriot and took a bit of pity on him. But I mean, Casper never plans to be on the grass for long, does he? And he'll be happy to be back on clay in Bostar very soon and playing doubles with Nadal. Very, very true. Yeah, maybe he had that one eye on that. There'll be more familiar territory for him to go to in terms of the clay events coming up. And then one other result I want to bring up, quite sad for me personally. David Goffin
He lost to Thomas Machak after being 5-love up in the 5th set. Thomas Machak, he's been on a journey. He's been on a path. He thought he was going to play Murray. Thought he was going to be on a show court. Wasn't. Got put out against a lucky loser, David Goffin. Thought he was going out to a lucky loser, David Goffin. And he's come through. He's been on so many ups and downs, I feel, over the last 48 hours.
I think he was also 2 sets down as well as being 5-love
Yes.
down. And I mean...
Lots of peaks and troughs.
Lots of peaks and troughs. I feel like for Goffin, it feels like quite a familiar story for him. I did see him after that match on the media balcony just looking out, and I think he was thinking about some of those missed opportunities.
Yeah,
but
he's not going to get many more of them, is he?
He isn't, especially when he got lucky to get this opportunity in the first place, unfortunately.
Well, tough luck to David Goffin, but Thomas Machak lives to fight another day.
But Lucas Pouille.
Lucas Pouille as well,
We shouldn't end on a negative 5-setter. Pouille coming through qualifying and getting a win at Islam against Laszlo Djere, which is no mean feat. And I think that's very nice for him. He does pop up at Islam and get a win every now and again. And I think that the crowd loves to see it. And it's always great given how much adversity he's gone through.
Definitely. And there was quite a few 5-set victories because Rusevori won in 5, Rinderknech won in 5. As you said, Tommy Paul won in 5, Safulin as well. Kokinakis against Felix Auger-Aliassime. It was very, very impressive from a lot of players. A lot of deep
Kekmanovic as well. Goodness,
matches.
yeah.
Kekmanovic. Right, let's look at the order of play for day 4 because this is
a big day.
This
Joel.
is Brits galore across centre and number 1 court. We've got the doubles as well. Let's look at them quickly. We've got on centre court Novak Djokovic versus Jacob Fernley opening up. Then Iga Swiatek versus Petra Martic. And then we've got that doubles involving Andy Murray and Jamie Murray versus John Peers and Rinky Hijikata. Bolter Dart opening number 1 court. Draper Norrie second on there, followed by Marcos Giron versus Alexander Zverev. Bit of a random one, that one, I think.
Quite strange, yes.
Where are you drawn to on those?
I'm very interested to see how Fernley gets on against Djokovic. I think that will be a real David versus Goliath. Djokovic never seen him play before. I think that we really, hopefully it's not a whitewash, but I think that will be a lovely moment for him. But I mean, I've seen the Iga match before. I saw it last year at Wimbledon Centre Court. I was here for that. So
It's a repeat?
It's a repeat, yeah, exactly. So I think it was the same round as well. So I'm not particularly interested in that. I'm more interested in the Brits. How will Murray do is the big question. And I do think the fascinating encounters of Katie Boulter and Harriet Dart, Jack Draper, Cam Norrie.
Well, there's only one thing to do, Chris. Before we finish and wrap up the episode, I'm going to put you on the spot.
No.
Put you on the spot specifically for the Brits, because that's what I'm most interested in. So I want winner and number of sets, as always.
Okay.
We're going to start Jacob Fernley versus Novak Djokovic.
It's going to be Djokovic in 3.
Okay.
What do you think? You've got to tell me 2.
Djokovic in 3,
Yes, indeed.
Katie Boulter, Harriet Dart.
I think Boulter. Oh,
You said Dart to me on our last episode.
I did. I'm going to switch that and say Dart in 3, but my heart is saying, am I allowed to change? We're allowed to change.
You can change at any moment you want, Chris.
I'm going to say Dart in 3.
Dart in 3.
I'm going to stick with it.
I'm going to go Boulter in 2 there, personally. And then Jack Draper versus Cam Norrie. This is very tough.
I think it honestly could be Draper in 4 or 5, but I do think Draper's going to get it done.
I think Draper's going to get it done as well. I'm going to say Draper in 4. Yeah.
Okay.
But
we're
yes.
not miles apart.
No.
And how will Andy Murray fare tomorrow?
That is a good point, yes.
Because you will be there. We'll do everything in our power.
I hope to be there.
Yes.
I'm going to say it's tough. I mean, Peers and Hijikata.
I mean,
it just screams they're playing for the Olympics.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of the Aussies aren't actually playing in the Olympics. Yeah. Max Purcell's not playing.
Yeah.
So
it's not the strong. I think they've got stronger doubles players as a nation.
Ebden and Peers might be playing together. Actually, I think that they will be the doubles team for Australia. Okay. I think because he's playing with Bopana for the Wimbledon title. I
can't see them winning.
I think out in 2, unfortunately.
I think you're right.
But hopefully we'll come back tomorrow with more positive news. And ultimately, now all I want to hear is that Andy Murray felt pretty good and thinks he will be great for Friday with Emma. That's what we're all hoping for.
Yes, we are all hoping for that. Good luck, Andy Murray, in his doubles conquests at Wimbledon. Very, very much looking forward to that. Listeners, I hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action to come over the next couple of weeks from Wimbledon. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
You can follow all of the action from Wimbledon, where we are now, on social media, or you can email us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X, and the handle is Tennis Weekly Pod. You can purchase the Tennis Weekly merch that we are walking around Wimbledon with, and that's etsy.com.
Gracing the green lawns.
Exactly.
Green lawns, just gracing the site, really.
Lighting up the site, and that's at etsy.com/shop/tennisweeklypodcast. You can email the show, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, or check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back tomorrow from Wimbledon at Tennis Weekly HQ for our Day 4 catch-up. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.